Welcome, dear listeners, to another journey into the realm of myth and legend. Tonight, we travel back to the dawn of time, when the world was still young. The heavens and the earth were ruled by ancient powers beyond imagination. This is the story of Zeus, not yet a mighty god, but a vulnerable, hidden child. His destiny was already written among the stars, waiting to unfold. Imagine a world where every whisper of the wind carried secrets untold, where every mountain peak stood like a guardian over gods and mortals alike. In this world, a prophecy was spoken, one that shook the throne of Cronus. It foretold the fall of the ruler of the Titans and the rise of a new child. Cronus, fearful of losing his throne, sought to silence fate itself. But destiny, as we know, cannot be silenced or chained forever. From sorrow, courage was born in the heart of a mother. From secrecy, hope was nurtured in the silence of a cave. On the island of Crete, a child would grow in shadows and light. That child would one day lead the gods of Olympus into a new age. So, settle in, dear listener. Let your imagination open to the timeless tale of Zeus, the hidden child who would become king of the gods. Long before Zeus was born, the cosmos was ruled by Cronus, one of the Titans. Cronus was powerful, commanding, and feared across heaven and earth. To mortals, he seemed eternal, a ruler who could never be shaken. Yet even the strongest rulers carry a shadow of fear within them. Cronus feared the one thing every ruler dreads: losing power. This fear shaped his choices and haunted his every dream. Whispers of prophecy moved across the heavens and the earth. The prophecy was unshakable. One of his children would surpass him. A child of Cronus would take his throne and rule in his place. Cronus believed this prophecy, and because he believed it, he feared it. Imagine, dear listener, the weight of such knowledge on his heart. For some, the prophecy might have been a reason for pride. But for Cronus, it brought only dread, not joy or hope. His children were not blessings to him, but threats to his throne. Restless and desperate, he tried to keep fate at bay. But fate, like the seasons, cannot be stopped or silenced forever. Rhea, his wife and sister, saw the prophecy in her heart. She longed to nurture her children and watch them grow in love. But she knew Cronus was ruled not by love, but by fear. And in that fear, she saw danger for every child she bore. The stars themselves seemed to echo the prophecy each night. They warned of change and whispered of a child who would rise. This child would bring balance and shape a new future for the gods. Cronus tried to silence the whispers and shut his ears to fate. But deep down, he knew destiny could not be erased. In fear, Cronus made his choice to resist at any cost. He would stand against destiny, no matter how desperate the act. Imagine, dear listener, watching a titan fight against the flow of time. It is like the tide trying to hold back the pull of the moon, or the night trying to stop the light of dawn from rising. This is where our tale begins, under the shadow of fear. A prophecy carved into the fabric of existence, unshakable and true. The promise of a child already alive in the whispers of fate. The stage was set. Cronus ruled for now, but time had chosen another. And so begins the story of Zeus, destined to change the world. In the shadow of Cronus's throne stood Rhea, his queen, and the mother of the gods. She was gentle yet strong, graceful yet filled with quiet determination. While Cronus ruled with fear, Rhea's heart carried only love. Where he saw threats, she saw children. Where he clung to power, she longed for family. But her sorrow was great. With each child she bore, joy lasted only a moment. Cronus, driven by fear, would not allow his children to live freely. Rhea's arms were left empty, her heart heavier with every loss. Imagine, dear listener, the pain of a mother who cannot hold her child. Her sorrow became a constant ache, a song of grief within her soul. Yet beneath that sorrow, something else began to grow. Resolve. She knew she could not stand by as Cronus ruled through fear. To Rhea, the prophecy was not a curse, it was hope. When her sixth child was to be born, she vowed he would be safe. That child was Zeus, and his birth carried the weight of destiny. Zeus's first breath was hidden in silence, far from the eyes of Cronus. Rhea held him close, her heart filled with fear and determination. But how could she protect him from Cronus's watchful power? To save Zeus, Rhea needed more than courage. She needed a plan. She turned to the earth itself, and the island of Crete became her ally. In a cave on Mount Ida, she found shelter from Cronus's gaze. The earth welcomed her child, rocks forming a cradle, trees whispering promises, streams offered lullabies, and the cave became a home of safety. But Rhea also needed a way to deceive Cronus himself. She wrapped a stone in swaddling cloth and handed it to him. Cronus, blinded by fear, never questioned the trick. He believed fate was silenced, while destiny was already slipping away. In Crete, Rhea entrusted Zeus to divine guardians. The nymphs cared for him as their own child of the earth. The goat Amalthea fed him with her milk, strong and pure. Bees brought golden honey to nourish the young god. The Curetes danced around the cave, clashing their shields in rhythm. Their music masked his cries so Cronus would never hear him. Rhea left her son in their care with sorrow, but also with hope. Her arms were empty once more, but her spirit was lighter. This time, she knew her child was safe from Cronus's fear. Each night, she prayed to the stars for her son's future. She wished him strength, wisdom, compassion, and a destiny fulfilled. She prayed he would end the cycle of fear and bring a new age. Meanwhile, Cronus sat on his throne, believing he had won. But in truth, the real heir was growing in secret, nourished by love. His destiny was protected by nature and the courage of his mother. Dear listener, this is the power of love and faith. It is the story of a mother who dared to defy fear. Rhea's secret plan had succeeded, and the prophecy was alive. Zeus, the hidden child, was safe in the arms of destiny. High upon the island of Crete, surrounded by mountains, a secret moment unfolded. This was no ordinary birth, but the arrival of a child who would rule Olympus. On that night, he was simply a newborn, small, fragile, hidden from danger. The cave of Mount Ida was quiet, filled with the breath of the earth. Water trickled along the stones, carrying the scent of pine and herbs. Here, away from Cronus's eyes, Rhea brought her son into the world. Her heart was heavy with fear, but bright with hope. She had lost children before, but this time would be different. She whispered his name with love and defiance. Zeus. Imagine the silence of that hidden cave, dear listener. A mother cradled her child, fearing his cries would betray him. Yet she knew this child carried something different, a spark of destiny. The nymphs of the mountains gathered, their eyes filled with wonder. They had seen births before, but never one that felt so sacred. To them, this child was not only life, but a promise. The cave became more than shelter. It became a cradle of fate. The winds softened. The rocks curved around him in protection. Even the stars seemed to shine brighter, watching from above. But secrecy alone could not protect Zeus from Cronus forever. Rhea knew she must leave him in the care of others. Her heart ached but she trusted the guardians of the earth. She placed him in the arms of the nymphs, who vowed to protect him. Among them was Amalthea, the gentle goat who fed him milk. Bees brought golden honey, sacred nourishment for the child. The Curetes danced around the cave, clashing shields in rhythm. Their music drowned his cries, hiding him from Cronus's ears. Day by day, Zeus grew in this rhythm of care and devotion. He was surrounded, not by thrones, but by the gifts of nature. Even as an infant, his presence inspired reverence and awe. Rhea returned in secret, her heart torn between sorrow and joy. She longed to hold him openly, but destiny demanded patience. She whispered blessings over him, strength, wisdom, and compassion. Dear listener, imagine the bond of mother and child in that cave. Imagine the courage it took for Rhea to walk away. Her sacrifice was heavy, but her faith was greater still. Zeus's birth was not marked by trumpets or celebration. It was marked by silence, secrecy, and the spark of hope. A fragile beginning that carried the seed of greatness. Cronus still sat on his throne, blind to the truth. His rival had already been born, hidden beneath Mount Ida. The cave held the secret. The stars bore witness. The earth sighed in relief. Change had begun, quietly, in the cry of a hidden child. This was the birth of Zeus, silent, secret, yet filled with promise. A child destined to rise as king of the gods. High in the mountains of Crete, Zeus grew in secret, hidden from Cronus. The cave of his birth became the cradle of his childhood. Every stone and tree seemed to take part in raising him. The nymphs cared for him with love, not fear. They carried him, sang to him, and told him stories of the stars. To them, he was more than a child. He was the future. Amalthea, the gentle goat, gave him milk and comfort. One day, Zeus broke one of her horns by accident. From it flowed endless fruits and grains, a miracle. This became the cornucopia, the horn of plenty. The Curetes danced in armor around the cave. Their clashing shields masked Zeus's cries and laughter. Each beat of bronze was an act of protection. Zeus grew quickly, as if destiny hurried him along. His eyes carried a light too great for a child. He laughed at birds and chased bees in the fields. Even his laughter made the cave itself seem brighter. The nymphs taught him the ways of the earth. He learned herbs, waters, and the wisdom of stars. His mind hungered for every secret of the world. But beyond joy, there was always shadow. He sensed danger beyond the mountains, unseen but real. The whispers of Cronus reached him in fragments, and even without words, Zeus understood the threat. At night, Rhea sometimes came in secret. She held him close, if only for a moment. She spoke of his lost brothers and sisters with love. She reminded him he was part of something greater. Imagine, dear listener, the heart of that child. Safe, yet aware his life was fragile. Loved, yet knowing others had been taken before him. From this grew not fear, but determination. He became strong, not to destroy, but to protect. As years passed, Zeus became bold and powerful. He ran like deer, climbed like lions, played with storms. The mountains and winds became his companions. The earth itself seemed to love him. Unlike Cronus, who ruled by fear, Zeus lived in harmony. He was not a tyrant in the making, but a guardian. One evening, Zeus asked the nymphs a question. Why must I stay hidden? Why not see the world? The nymphs shared heavy glances before answering. The world is not yet ready for you, they said, and you are not yet ready for it. But when the time comes, you will know. You will be the one to change it. Zeus accepted, though his heart longed for more. He felt the prophecy pressing against his spirit. Still, he waited, growing stronger each day. His childhood was no ordinary childhood. It was a time of nurture, learning, and hidden strength. The child of shadows was preparing for light. Cronus still ruled, blind to the truth. But fate had chosen its champion. In Crete, Zeus was becoming more than a child. He was becoming destiny itself. The boy who once cried in secret grew into a young man of strength and spirit. The mountains of Crete shaped his body with wind and stone. The silence of the stars sharpened his mind. Zeus was no longer the hidden child. He was becoming more. From the nymphs, he learned gentleness and care. From the Curetes, he learned courage and rhythm. From the mountain itself, he learned resilience and patience. He carried harmony between determination and compassion, but a restlessness stirred inside him, rising like a tide. He longed for more than shadows and secrecy. He knew his life carried a greater purpose. At night, he wondered beneath the glittering stars. Why had he been spared when his siblings were not? Why did the nymphs guard him with such devotion? Why did his mother's eyes shine with love and sorrow? One evening, by the fire, Zeus asked the truth. "Who am I meant to be?" he questioned. The nymphs hesitated, guarding the secret fiercely. At last, one spoke with trembling voice. "You are the son of Cronus, and one day you will rise against him." The words hung heavy, but Zeus did not flinch. Instead, clarity filled him. This was his calling. His life was not an accident, but destiny. Dear listener, imagine the weight of that truth. To face not only a father, but the ruler of the cosmos. Yet fear did not root in his heart. Instead, a fire burned brighter within him. The nymphs told of his siblings, swallowed by fear. They told of the prophecy that foretold his rise. They told of Rhea's courage and sacrifice. Zeus listened in silence, his eyes full of resolve. He saw himself not as a victim, but as a son with duty. His siblings were lost, but not gone forever. Somewhere within Cronus, they still lived, waiting for him. The thought struck Zeus like lightning. His destiny was not revenge, but restoration. Not destruction, but renewal. From that night, Zeus trained with fierce intent. He wrestled with storms and tested his strength. He hurled stones across valleys, shaping his power. He climbed cliffs until his hands bled, learning endurance. Every challenge was preparation for the greater one ahead. But strength alone was not enough for Zeus. He sought wisdom in the flight of eagles. He learned timing from rivers and patience from trees. Power without wisdom, he saw, was no power at all. One night, Rhea appeared beneath the stars. Older now, her face was lined with sorrow, but her spirit was unbroken. Her eyes full of fire. "The time is near," she whispered. "Cronus believes himself unshakable, but fate has already chosen. You are the one who will change everything." Zeus held her hands and promised firmly, "I will not fail, Mother. I will free them, and I will bring justice." Destiny often awakens not with thunder, but with whispers. For Zeus, it was the quiet truth of his purpose. He was born to bring balance and hope. The mountains had shaped him. The nymphs had guided him. Rhea had saved him. Now all these gifts gathered like a storm within. The hidden child was no longer hidden. He was awake to his destiny. Cronus still ruled with fear and pride. But the first spark of rebellion had already been lit. Zeus was ready not as a child, but as destiny itself. The winds of destiny carried Zeus beyond the mountains of Crete. He was no longer content with hiding in shadows. The truth of his birth pressed him forward into the world. It was time to prepare for the path ahead. But Zeus knew he could not face Cronus alone. The king of the Titans ruled through fear and silence. If Zeus were to rise, he would need allies by his side. So his journey began, seeking wisdom and strength. First, he climbed to the caves of Olympus. There lived Metis, a goddess of thought and foresight. Her eyes were sharp, her voice calm and certain. "You are young," she said, "but not blind. You see, Cronus's rule cannot last forever." Zeus listened as she spoke of patience and cunning. "Wisdom must guide power," she reminded him. From Metis, Zeus gained counsel and trust. Next, he turned to the waters of the earth. He journeyed to the dwelling of Oceanus. The Titan of the sea welcomed him in peace. "I feel the shift of fate," Oceanus said. "The rivers whisper your name in their song. If you bring harmony, you will have my blessing." Though Oceanus would not fight, his currents carried aid. The sea itself began to favor Zeus's cause. On his journey, Zeus met allies in Titans too. Prometheus saw in him the dawn of change. "You are not like Cronus," Prometheus declared. "You are not ruled by fear or pride." He offered his cleverness, his brother Epimetheus, his quiet loyalty. Though Titans by birth, they chose a new path. Zeus welcomed them for their faith and courage. In the shadows, Hecate waited at the crossroads. The goddess of magic carried torches of fire. "You bear the flame of change," she told him. "With me, shadows will bend to your will." She gave him hidden paths and mystery's power. With her, unseen strength joined his side. And still, the circle of allies grew wider. Gaia, the mother of earth, turned her gaze to Zeus. Her voice rumbled like deep mountain rising. "Cronus has broken the balance of all things, but you may restore what has been lost. If you honor the earth, it will honor you." Zeus bowed to her with respect and promise. The roots of the world became his silent guardians. Piece by piece, destiny gathered around him. Metis with her wisdom, Prometheus with his daring, Oceanus with his currents, Hecate with her magic, Gaia with her earth, and always Rhea, the mother whose hope never faded. Dear listener, imagine this gathering of spirits. Not an army of swords, but of trust and faith. Zeus did not demand, he invited. He wove together courage, wisdom, and hope. Each ally restored a piece of what Cronus had broken. Together, they formed the first council of a new age. Zeus had not yet struck against Cronus, but already a quiet revolution was rising. The child once hidden was no longer alone. Surrounded by allies, he was becoming a leader. The future king of the gods had taken his first step, and though Cronus knew nothing, the cracks had begun to show. The world had waited in silence for too long. Cronus still ruled, believing himself unshakable. He devoured his children and reigned in fear. But destiny, though patient, always arrives. Zeus was no longer the hidden child of Crete. He carried wisdom, strength, and loyal allies. The fire of his purpose burned bright within. It was time to confront his father's shadow. Imagine, dear listener, the weight of that moment. A son rising against the one who gave him life. Not with hate, but with duty to restore balance. Not with vengeance, but with hope for a new order. Metis guided him with steady counsel. "You must not fight with strength alone," she warned. "His pride blinds him, let it be his weakness." So Zeus prepared a plan of patience and guile. Metis brewed a draft, sweet and shimmering. It carried the power to stir truth within. Not poison, but awakening, hidden in taste. Zeus took it, ready to meet his father. He walked the path to Cronus's hall. The air trembled with ancient weight and power. There sat Cronus, stern upon his throne. "Who dares disturb me?" he thundered. Zeus stood tall, unflinching in the storm. "It is I, your son," he declared. Cronus's eyes flared with suspicion and rage. "You were hidden from me," he snarled. "Do you come to challenge me, boy?" Zeus answered calmly, without lifting a hand. "I come not with sword, but with offering." He held out the golden cup of drink. "Let us share it, father to son." Cronus laughed, blinded by pride. He drank deeply, thinking himself victorious. But the draft was not weakness, it was fate. It stirred what he had buried deep inside. Cronus's laughter faltered into silence. The air grew heavy as destiny awakened. The children he swallowed stirred within. Voices long silenced began to rise again. He realized he had not destroyed them. He had only delayed their return. The throne of Cronus began to tremble. The prophecy he feared had come alive. One by one, the gods returned to the world. Hestia, Demeter, Hera, Hades, and Poseidon. They were not broken, but whole and strong. Zeus welcomed them as family restored. For the first time, they stood united. Cronus faced not one child, but all of them. The prophecy had taken its full shape. Still, Zeus did not strike his father down. He needed no cruelty to claim victory. He stood with his siblings, leader among equals. Together, they were the dawn of Olympus. Cronus, defeated by fate, fell silent. His reign of fear had reached its end. The children he tried to erase stood as gods. The hour of the Titans was fading fast. Zeus looked upon him with calm resolve. "This is not the end of the world," he said, "but it is the end of your rule." The hall echoed with silence deeper than thunder. Cronus was undone not by blade, but destiny. The children of Rhea were free at last. Zeus had taken his first true step as leader. The war for the cosmos was not yet finished, but the first great victory had been won. The age of the Titans was passing away, and the age of the Olympians had begun to rise. The great hall of Cronus fell into silence. The weight of destiny hung heavy in the air. Zeus stood tall, his siblings by his side, free at last. The children of Rhea were united once more. Cronus sat in quiet defeat, his reign undone. He was not destroyed, but his rule was broken. The age of the Titans had cracked wide open. Through that fracture, something new was rising. Zeus looked upon his brothers and sisters with pride. They had endured years of silence and shadow. Now they stood whole, gods ready to shape order. Hera shone with regal strength and wisdom. Poseidon's restless spirit surged like the sea. Hades carried the deep gravity of the earth. Hestia and Demeter radiated warmth and life. And Zeus, once the youngest, was now their leader. He had not seized power with force, but with vision. His courage and wisdom won their trust and faith. But their struggle was not yet complete. The Titans still roamed, vast and unyielding. Cronus was only the first step in destiny's path. Yet the air itself seemed to shift with hope. The Olympians were no longer scattered or hidden. Together, they could face even the Titan's might. Zeus lifted his gaze toward the endless sky. There he felt their future would be written. A mountain that touched the clouds called to him. "Mount Olympus," he whispered, "a promise of home. A place above the world, yet bound to it. A place for gods to guard balance, not to rule." His siblings listened, and hope lit their eyes. One by one, they nodded to his vision. The rise of the Olympians had truly begun. It was not one moment, but a journey ahead. A journey through wars, trials, and victories untold. The earth trembled, as if sensing the change. The seas roared, and winds swept the mountains. Nature itself bowed to the dawn of a new era. Zeus placed his hand upon his siblings' shoulders. "Together," he said, "we will bring order to all." They were no longer swallowed children bound in silence. They were the Olympians, destined to rule Olympus. And so, the story did not end with Cronus. It carried into the forging of a new world. Battles awaited, but destiny was already written. At its heart stood Zeus, thunder in his grasp. Once hidden, now king among gods eternal. His lightning would blaze across the skies forever. His name would echo in the myths of humankind. The age of the Titans was fading fast. The age of the Olympians had begun to rise.